Right, so you're looking to create an orchestral track, but you're struggling to find inspiration. Now, the main thing I can say is time signature. Seems like a very weird thing compared to choosing the right instruments, choosing certain aspects in the actual project itself. But time signature was the main point for me that allowed me to make my orchestral track sound professional. Now, in the Now or Never track that I recently released, it's a 7/8 time signature. Quite weird, I've never really done anything with it before. Now, every time I tried to make a track using a time signature like 7/8, 5/4, 6/8, I couldn't do it. Everything I did was 4/4. I couldn't help it. I couldn't get my brain around the time signatures. So the main way that I got my head around these time signatures was watching and listening to film scores. So you've got Ant-Man, which is 7/8, the Ant-Man theme, very similar to what I actually created. And you can hear the similarities if you were to go and listen to the Ant-Man theme. The rhythm is very similar. Mission Impossible is a 5/4 time signature. Once again, very iconic theme, and we'll get on to why it's so important to listen to these tracks in just a little bit. Now, the main thing to take away from these tracks, the inspiration for what you're going to create, isn't the chords, isn't the instrumentation necessarily, or at least not in this instance. It's the rhythm of the chords. You want to take the rhythm and play your own chords and progressions to that rhythm. It means that you can just follow the 7/8, knowing what the rhythm is of Ant-Man. So if I was to play the initial starting for this track Now or Never that I created, you'll hear the rhythm, and I'll have the click on as well so you can hear the 7/8 behind it. Now that rhythm is taken from Ant-Man, and I didn't actually use that rhythm throughout the whole thing. I changed it up halfway through, and it just gave it a good bass line, not actual bass line, but a basis for this track, so that I could follow on with this time signature, because it sounds more professional than 4/4. Not saying that all 4/4 tracks aren't professional, it's just easier to make a more professionally sounding track. So that's the first thing. The same thing you'd do with Mission Impossible. You would take the 5/4 of the Mission Impossible and you'd change up the chords, all that stuff, but you'd keep the rhythm. And that's the way you can actually start creating something using that time signature. Because before you know it, you can create a drum to that rhythm, you can create other instruments that follow along these stabs, or like I did, stabs, and therefore you can create this awesome sounding track purely through a small bit of inspiration that you took from another track. Another way you can train yourself into these time signatures, it's a bit longer and a bit harder to do, especially if you don't have a good ear for melodies and the chords and all that stuff, is actually copying the track. So if you to take Ant-Man, Mission Impossible, you have it in your session, or just playing on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, and you get the tempo, you get the time signature, and you just keep trying to take the instrumentation, the rhythms, the melody, and try and create your own exact copy of it. I did that with Ant-Man. I did it with Captain Marvel. I haven't done it with Mission Impossible, but I've created some 5/4 tracks that were inspired by Mission Impossible, and this was all for a university dissertation. So I would only suggest doing that if you feel confident with the software and with your instruments, and you feel that you can actually copy it quite well. Otherwise, a really simple version is just replicating the rhythm. It's very simple, and I'll play the Ant-Man duplicate and the Captain Marvel duplicate. Obviously, copying the tracks is a lot harder than just taking the rhythm, but it's another way of training your brain into not only get the time signature, but how to structure a track and what instruments to use. As you can see here, I've got brass stabs, sustained strings, all sorts of drums going on, and it works. But would it work if I hadn't listened to the other tracks and taken inspiration from it? It's harder to say. Now, I'll be creating another video using purely Logic instruments to try and create a track that still sounds professional and real. Might be quite difficult, but hopefully it will show what you can do to at least make your track sound a little more professional, a little more real, because obviously I'm using packs that are quite expensive and obviously have been recorded very well to create this awesome sound. That's pretty much it for this video. I know there was a lot of me talking, not a lot on screen, but in the previous videos I've discussed the instrumentation on this track, and you can watch that, and you can see also the main track on a different video that I'll link at the end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.